All right, so let's get this show on the road. So today is going to be all about sort of AI automations, not necessarily AI for the marketing stuff. I think I'll cover that next week or maybe the week after. But today was more around just sharing with you that if you think a little bit outside the box, you really can create an entire either workflow where you need less of your time or less human time with an outsourced person. And in some cases, you can actually get a lot more control as well over the output. So it makes it more predictable, scalable, and largely error-free. But that one is obviously in inverted commas there. You want to check and see, just make sure that that is the case for you before you go and deploy it with no human check. So that's the thing. Now, the cost-effective part, I wanted to cover that first because this came up today. Oops, it came up today when someone from my team said, "Hey, we want to get transcripts of the calls that we are doing." So this is the conversion lab calls, for example, and we want to be able to do the description for the YouTube videos because all these videos ends up on YouTube. And so when we looked at it, this plan here has that integration available in Zapier because we've got an old Zap that's been sitting there for a few years. All of these calls, when they get recorded on Zoom, they get just saved into Google Drive. But in order to save the transcript, you have to go to the business plan. So I looked at it and I said, "Is it really worth $5 a month? Just upgrade." And then obviously we had a look, and it actually starts at 10 people, so you need a minimum of 10. Versus in this case, you can have anywhere from 1 to 99. And so we only have 3 Zoom users. I use it, my head dev uses it, and pretty much we've got one spare one lying around. So we don't have a very heavy usage apart from just 2 or 3 team members who are using it more frequently. And so when we looked at that, we realized it's $13 times 3 users versus 18 times 10, and all of a sudden it's a significant difference. It's $40 to $180. Now you have that across one app and then another app and another app. Next thing you know, you've got $100 difference or $120 difference, and they can start accumulating. And next thing you know, you're spending a couple of $1,000s a month when you could easily not have to spend that. So what are the options? We looked at Zapier. Zapier needed you to be on a higher price plan, and Zoom also needed to be higher price plan. And I said, I wonder if we can access that with the API. So which leads me to, I'm going to show you as our first example of what I did to quickly solve that problem. But before that, I wanted to share with you the biggest pain point of all of this AI stuff is actually not even the AI stuff. It's them connections and integrations. So what I mean by that is these connections that you set up. So I'm using N8N for my integrations, for my AI integrations or workflows, automations. You can use Make for it. You can use Zapier for it. You can use whatever your preferred choice is. This is not to sell you on N8N or anything, or to say that it's better than something else. I've never really been a big user of any other platform, so I can't speak against it. But I love the flexibility of what this platform has provided, and that's why I've sort of gravitate towards that. But having said that, it's the first one that I also used, largely because it was open source and you could host it on your own server. And so I did that, and after a while I realized it's just not worth it to be upgrading all the time and all that kind of stuff. So I got into the paid version, but by then I had learned enough about the platform to needlessly not bother. So as you can see here, I've got a fairly extensive array of connections that I've built. API5, my AWS account is in here. I've got SERP API, that's for any of the SEO people who want to grab results from SERP results. I've got a Postgres Superbase vector database right here. That's for the actual database. One's for the vector, one's for just a normal database. I've got Google Sheets, I've got Dropbox, I've got Google Docs, I've got OpenAI, I've got Pinecone, which is another vector database. I've got Llama Index, which provides a way to do RAG, so to look at documents. Once again, haven't played too much with it. And then I've got my email set up here. I've got Perplexity to make an API call to Perplexity, which has got a live link. But I know that OpenAI just released, with internet access, so perhaps that might be a better option going forward. Once again, I haven't tested the part yet. And then I've got my LinkedIn stuff. And I've got Zoom, which I played with today. As you can see, it's 5 hours ago. I set that up. And so the hardest part, as I said, is actually all this. The building of the automations in the AI stuff is actually pretty simple. So in my own case, it took me almost an hour to hour and a half to get this working, because I wasn't sure, the documents weren't very clear, and I was being lazy, so I just wanted to get the damn thing set up without reading the docs. So I kind of went a bit of a roundabout way, but nevertheless, just to show you that when you start setting these things up, it's quite painful. So there's the I'm gonna go through and just show you what I did here. So let me look at the API docs. If we go to the marketplace for that, once I clicked it off, and I'm gonna go and oops, AJAX. All right, so I've got manage, and this is the one that that I've got working here. And as you can see, it has quite a few setups here. You got to do your callback like so, and I need to go next. And the hardest part of dealing with, especially the Zoom one, which has been quite unusual. Normally they're not this difficult. You got to set up your scopes, and scopes basically means is what does the API have access to. And as you can see, I've got a very long list. So it took me forever to work out what access did Zoom want me to add to my API to be able to get my meetings, right? Essentially, that's what I was trying to do. So anyway, and then at some point I got a bit frustrated. So what I did was I just went and added everything in. So as you can see here, for my meeting one, I've got 99. So you can go ahead and you can just kind of click what you're looking for. So go ahead and click that. Like I said, not every API is this complicated. This is probably one of the more difficult ones. The other one that I found that I'm going in progress right now is actually LinkedIn, where once you've set this up, you need to get permission to use it. So it, I guess, has some sort of a human review process. So I'm waiting on them just to approve me to be able to post as a company. Individual posting, not a problem, and I'll show you an example of that. But posting as a company, which is what I wanted to do, that access is not available at the moment. So the hardest thing would be actually to set all these connections up. Once you get the connections all set up, really building of the stuff, it becomes pretty easy here. So in this one here, what I've got is in my example here is I've got, and I'll break down what my thinking here is and why I'm doing it the way that I'm doing it. So firstly, I'm picking up an article. And so I should start with the Perplexity API. And if I have a look here at my API here, their API, there you go. There's the prompt right there, and you can insert, sort of in this case, I said create social media posts for Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Be sure to adhere to the content style and length for each platform, social media platform. Provide the output in separated columns so it can easily be extracted, and so on and so forth, right? And that's essentially the prompt that you use, and the setup is pretty simple. I've got OpenAI. Sorry, wrong one. I needed to show you this one. That's Perplexity. So I've got my API here. It's post. I'm using a generic connection, and there you go. There's my prompt right there for OpenAI. So what I've got is I've got a prompt here. That's the system part, the user part, and then the tokens you want to use. So there are only 3 things you need for most of these AI type. Well, no, you don't even need the tokens one. So most of the AI APIs really have 2 big sections you got to worry about. One is the system role, and the other one is a user one. And so if you were to log into into, say, for example, Claude, you'll have that section where you put in the prompt part is the user, and then the other part is where you sort of put it, you tell it what to do over and over again. You will add that as the system prompt. And so what I did in this case is I wanted to use this over and over and over again, this automation. So what I did was in the step earlier, I'm actually breaking up my prompt itself as a variable. So this means this can be added as a variable from some other place. So let's say I've got Perplexity. Let's say I want to do research. I want to use Perplexity to do market research. I would pass in the comment here about doing market research. If I wanted to, get a summary of the article, then I would put in the summary like so here, and so on and so forth. So that way you can have your workflow here sitting as a separate standalone automation, and you can pass any amount of information to it and make it pretty much do whatever you want. So in this case, I've got my token as a variable. I've got what to search for and what to do about it. So this could be a competitor site. If there's a competitor site, then I would pass into my system role here, or even my user role here, analyze the site and work out what are the hooks they're using, or what are the headlines they're using, and scarcity and urgency and yada, 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 whatever the things you want to do to break down a competitor's ad or website or whatever it be, right? And so that is how I would use it over and over again. So that way you're not rebuilding it all the time. So the point is that because they're parameters inside Perplexity, if you have a look here, all I'm doing in the Perplexity prompt is I'm actually just got variables. So there you go. There's my variable. So for this particular example, I've got summarize the following article in detail. Do not add content from any other source, content or URL. I've got my user prompt is just the article because I was being lazy. And then essentially that's the URL to look at. So it's going to look at, so it's actually, this one looks like it's article colon the URL. That's the system prompt right there. And I only want you to use 500 tokens in this case.
Nick, are you supposed to be sharing something at the moment?
Yeah, aren't I sharing my...
We're just seeing your face.
Are you kidding me?
All good.
I was seeing it for some reason.
Dumb and dumber. All right, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Seen it all along, Nick.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was the whole time.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So maybe Josh, you've got a wrong screen on or something.
I can see it now.
Okay. All right. Okay. Hopefully we're all on the same page. Did everybody see me break this down?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. Well, anyway, I'll run through it. I'll summarize it one more time. So what we're doing here is we're using parameters and inside N8N. Obviously, every platform has their own version of this. It's called set values, or I think it's called edit values. So I've just put things set my prompt values. So my system, I want to summarize the article. And inside and then the actual user role, which is usually going to be a big prompt. In my case, I've just been lazy today, so I've just got article colon, and then I want Perplexity to look at this URL right here. It's crypto scams, and I only want to use a maximum of 500 tokens. You can go up to about 8,000 tokens. Obviously, every API is different. In this case, I believe the Perplexity one is about 8,000. So I just set 500 just for this testing purpose right here. So when I finally look at my actual use here, you can see that inside my Perplexity API request here, it's actually got only those variables, which means I can substitute these things out whenever I want and however I want. So let's say, for example, if I was doing market research, then I would pass information about market research. If I was doing summarizing of article, like I'm doing over here, I would pass that. If I'm looking to, do competitor analysis, so on and so forth. Whatever your different requirements are, you can just send just those values across, and automatically you don't have to keep changing the prompt over and over again. So there's only to add a Perplexity node to every workflow you ever create. You can have a Perplexity workflow, and it receives input from other workflows. It processes the information and it's going to send it back out to your original workflow. It's almost like a DT where you sending someone to another DT and then you bring them back to the original one or some other one, right? So that's all we're doing here. And the reason for doing it this way is so that it saves you from having to recreate a lot of these automations over and over and over again. And what ends up happening is you end up getting this massive, canvas with lots of stuff happening, and it becomes very difficult to make changes to those things. So say, for example, I've built it and it's my brain there and it's got lots of nodes on it. And then, let's say, I hire a new team member and they join up. They're like, oh, Nick, I'm going to need a 3-week, training program on this to work out what the hell you're doing here. But if you break them up into bite-sized pieces, they almost become a little bit easier to consume as well. Plus, it's always a good idea to break pieces out, which means you can reuse that over and over and over again, even if your requirements are totally different, right? And that's the main reason for doing it. So what's happening over here is then I'm using the OpenAI here to actually create my posts. So in this example, I'm setting the values here. I send a request to Perplexity to go and read the URL and bring back the information. And then I've got OpenAI, which is basically taking the information that I've got, the summary that I've got, and it's actually taking the summary and converting it into posts, different posts. So I've got create a social media post and take the summary right here. And the summary I'm adding in is right over here. Inside N8N, you just drag and drop it just like so, and that's all you got to do. So that means this is going to be added as a variable now, which is going forward, it'll always get used. So I'll just remove that so we don't break anything. And then that's what it actually is going to look like. So there's my the top part, and that's the summary bit, which is basically this bit here sent over here. So I'm writing social media posts about this basically, right? And now let's have a look at the next step, which is posting into LinkedIn. So come over here, and all I'm saying is post as Nick in this case, the person example. There's my ID right here. When you set up the integration, it allows you to select who you want. I'm just going to test it like so, and it's actually going to do a post into LinkedIn, successful. If I go over here, there's the last post. I'm just going to refresh the page here, and it should show up right away. So there you go. There you go, right there. The crypto one that I just posted is sitting right here. There you go. Social media post. So automated directly into LinkedIn. I've done something very similar for Instagram.
How are you finding people responding to that, Nick?
I'm sorry?
How are you finding people responding to that? Because that reads as AI to be.
Yeah, no, that's because my
When-
prompt is horrible. But if you use the prompts
Okay.
that we did in Persuasion SOS, it'll write like you. Yeah. So yeah. Once again, I'm not going to leave it. Let's get before I start getting. So let's just delete it. So there you go. It's gone. Okay. So only for demonstration purposes is yeah. Now, having said that, if you were to do a real one, then I would not necessarily use a silly, crappy prompt like this. In fact, the right way of doing it, and that's what I want to talk next about, which is so great question, is I would not ask my one prompt to create it for all social media output. So for example, as you can see here, it's a pretty crappy prompt. I'm just saying, hey, create a social media post for Twitter, Facebook, like kind of like an all-in-one thing. That's only for demonstration purposes. In reality, what I would do is I would branch off now. So I would come over here and I would branch off, do just for LinkedIn. And what I would do there is I would go into LinkedIn and see the types of posts and the style of posts that do really well. I would turn that into a document or something, and I would use that as a tool to read that and bring it back and sort of absorb that. So I'd make a very LinkedIn-centric AI node, and then I'd make a very Instagram-centric AI node, and I'd make a whatever, Facebook-centric AI node, and so on and so forth. And that way, the output that comes out of it will be very much on point because it won't be quite generic like this. Okay, so this is not sort of what you should actually do, but just to show you that it actually works. And now it's a matter of just breaking up the entire automation into its component pieces and making each one do its bit. So then the next question was, well, what about images, right? So I just very quickly added an OpenAI node in. I would not DALL-E. I'm not a big fan of DALL-E. Plus, look at my prompt. My prompt is make an image for basically that there. So it's not the best one, right? So once again, demonstration purposes only. This is not something that you would take to production. You would obviously improve the prompt and so on and so forth. I probably would not use DALL-E either. I might use Flux, or I might use one of the other better Midjourney or something, which are far better at generating these types of images. But nevertheless, let's just give it a quick test. It's executing this prompt right now into OpenAI to give me an image based on
Rock now, I think, yeah.
right here. It's probably going to be horrible, but anyway, let's see what it does. And so give it 2 secs. It's going to make an image, and there you go. So it's making an image for that. There you go. Let's give it a quick view, and there you go. Right. So obviously horrible, not quite, but look at the prompt as well that I've got. So what you can do here is you can literally create a auto posting social media machine which is automatically doing it. Now in most cases, what I would probably do is have all of these then get saved into, for example, a Google Drive. So I would kind of come in here and go Google, go into Google and do Google, where is Drive, like so. And I would kind of upload the file and upload all of this content into a folder and then have a human review done and then sort of, restart the automation or something. So almost add like a human bit here, especially for what I've done here. But then after a few weeks, once you've dialed it in, you've made some changes to your prompts, so on and so forth, you can at that point just let the whole thing just run on its own. And that way, it would just be an automated social media posting machine that is constantly posting. I mean, you could make it post every minute if you wanted to, in theory, whatever. Or whenever you add a link or you add some sort of content or you add some interesting idea into a Google Sheet or something, as soon as the Google Sheet is read, so in which case I would do something like this. I'm just going to go Google again, and Google Drive, and let's say if a folder is updated. So there you go. There's a trigger right here. So if there's a change to a specific folder, so there you go. In this case, so I would say check every minute and see if that folder has any input in it, or it could be a Google, it could be a file, could be an Excel, a Google Sheet, could be any of those things. Whenever it gets an extra line or a next line, at that point, it triggers what to do. So that line would be where you may run into some research article, or you may run into some good content, or whatever you want to kind of just, whenever you add that row, at that point, it triggers. And I would sort of add this right in the front here and have that sort of, set something like that. And that way, whenever that gets updated, now you could have an automation that is updating this as well. So AI is automatically picking up that stuff. And for that, I would actually build a totally new workflow. And I might use something like, my SERP API results or another Perplexity integration to read, I don't know, latest news on something, or whatever the use case is. You could have that acting as a trigger, and whenever you find something interesting, or you could do a sentiment analysis, or you could do a quality score on it or something, and say whenever the quality of the content you're running into is more than, let's say, 80 or something, then add that as a line into my Google Sheet. As soon as it gets a line in the Google Sheet, it triggers this whole thing, and your social media is pretty much happening around the clock, wherever your other AI workflow runs into any content or any idea or whatever that is of a sufficiently high quality. Right, so that's kind of in a nutshell is how I would sort of look at that. I'm showing a social media posting part here. I'm going to show you some other examples very shortly. So any questions on this? So it's honestly this bit here, it took me about 10 minutes to build. This stupid thing, it took me about an hour. So once again, now thankfully it's only one time. Once you set it up, you can use it over and over again. So that's the good thing about it. It's worth the pain in some cases. Or it's definitely worth the pain. But then this actually really is about an hour's work about 5 or 10 minutes of work. Actually, it's not that hard at all. So any questions on this before I move on to my next example? Nope. All right. Okay, cool. There's no more questions. I will go to another example. Right.
Are you guys planning to use it later with your content, or?
Yeah. So that's what it started out with. Well, here's how it started. I got a big social media bill, and I was like, oh, is there a better way of doing this? So that normally triggers me. So then I started playing around with this because I was using it for analysis. I'd never used it for social media posting. And so I was like, oh, you know what? It can create content like anybody else. So why not see if that's getting built? So maybe next week I'll share how to use vector databases to get a lot more consistency in the output, which is that reading of your existing stuff to then create stuff that actually sounds and reads and writes like you, right? So I'll share a bit of that maybe next week in a lot more detail in how to make that do that. So that requires you to add in a vector database component to it, or database component to it, I should say, and then we'll take it from there. Right. So
what do you guys actually trigger it from, like based on the RSS feed having a new record, or?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so you could do that now. So currently it's manual, so I'm just kind of like floating around the internet. I might run into an article, I might see something on Twitter, things of that sort. So something that's kind of interesting in the lead gen space, or in the sort of that's kind of like what I'm going to be triggering it from. And then at some point, I think I'm going to just say, okay, well, this is how I'm thinking about all of this stuff that I'm posting. Can I turn that into an automation of sorts? Right. So I've got a whole bunch of stuff here. So I've got PDFs to like invoices to CSV. So I've got one that's almost ready now, where what we're doing is we're just dumping all of our monthly invoices, for example, into a Google Drive folder, which is where it's going anyway. But at the moment, the bookkeeper manually enters it in. And I was like, this just sounds like it sounds a little bit silly to be doing that in 2024. So I went down the rabbit hole to try and work out how do you extract stuff, that because every PDF is different, and they're all structured differently, and so on and so forth. And that's when I ran into Llama Index and all that kind of stuff. So I'm mucking around a little bit of that stuff. As you can see here, there's one that I made for landing pages as well, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of use cases that you can play with. I'm going to show you guys the Zoom recording one. This is the one that triggered me today. It's funny what gets you going. I'll be sitting around reading something, and I'm like, what? Is the difference going to be like $180 to $39? All right, like, I gotta find an answer to this one. So this is what happened today, right? I'm grabbing a bunch of Zoom meetings. So meeting, get many. For my test purposes, only 5. I haven't perfected this one yet. So I'm just going to run it. It's going to pull 5 different of my last 5 meetings, but it's obviously going to pull everything. It's going to pull, stuff like Conversion Lab. Maybe, there's some customer onboarding call is sitting there, all sorts of stuff, so which I don't really want. So then what I've done is I've got a filter right here, and it filters for where my topic is equal to Conversion Lab. So this call here, we save it as Conversion Lab, and let's see if I can show you. So there you go. There's Conversion Lab right there. That's the one that I'm looking for, and it's going to equal that. So I'm going to test it, and basically telling me that it's going to discard 4. It's going to keep 1, which is correct. And then what I've done is I've gone and made my HTTP request. This time here, using the actual API itself. It's a GET request. There's my meeting ID. That's the bit that I wanted, which is this bit right here. And I just dragged and dropped that in the middle here. That's the API. So you need to kind of look at the docs a little bit. So sort of go in the docs in the references a bit. Sometimes because I've seen recently, because OpenAI can access the internet, you can just ask the OpenAI and saying, hey, listen, I'm trying to do this, and it'll read the document for you and just tell you which API to use. So I'm not even looking at the docs anymore. I'll just ask OpenAI, and makes it nice and easy. Right, so that's what's happening here. I'm going to go ahead and test this step. It's going to pick up all of the details about the specific meeting, which is Conversion Lab. And in this example here, I'm going to go to schema so we can have a better look here. You can see that it's got the recorded file here. That's the MP4 file. That's the MA4 file, another video file. There's the timeline, I guess the chat or something. That's the transcript, right? So that's the one I was looking for. This is the one they wanted us to pay $180 a month for versus $30, $40. So I was like, you know what? Let's see if I can get that. So there's my URL right here. I want to download that. So then what I did was I took it to another node, and this one here, I'm actually, getting the actual download from. So that's the URL. What you see here, there you go. That's the download URL. And if I press a test right here, it'll actually download the file. Done. And then what I'm doing with that file is I'm actually then saving it into Google Drive. So there you go. There's the file there that's being saved into Google Drive. So what I've got is, instead of paying Zapier for the next plan, and paying Zoom for another $120 a month extra, I basically built this automation to take care of that for me. Right?
So I'm a bit confused.
Yeah. So sorry. So I'll share with you. Let me just finish my thought here. Where now from here, what I can do is I'm going to extend this automation out to take the transcript, which actually looks like this. I'll show you what the transcript looks like. There you go. That's this one right here. That's the file it pulled earlier today. I'm just going to go open with preview just to show you that it's actually like a open with. Okay, let's just download it. All right. Open with text edit. All right. So there you go. That's what it actually looks like, right? It's just a, there you go. Josh, I think looks like you were on the call. It says we're just calling you Josh, and so on and so forth. There's my transcript. So what I can do now is, traditionally, we've taken all this information, we've tried to make with some other AI, all this sort of stuff. And as I built this today, I was like, oh, duh, we can just go one step further and get an AI node to write the description for the YouTube video, the title and the description, and have the timestamped whatever the description part, so that way someone can click it and go directly to the topic that we're talking about. So, for example, we spoke about a few different things today, and that's something that has been missing in our description and something has been annoying me. But it's something that I have not looked at, and I just gave it to a team member. And I was like, you know what? I'll solve that problem sometime in the future. So as I built this, I was like, you know what? I can solve it as my very next step. So earlier today, I built it. I was like, you know what? I just need to go one step further now and ask it to write my YouTube descriptions. But the better way to do it would be to go and get a whole bunch of videos that have been done, that have received a lot of views or virality or whatever. Grab a whole bunch of those and use that into Claude and say, Claude, can you make me a prompt that builds viral descriptions for YouTube and SEO or whatever. And it'll give me a prompt, and I'll use that prompt to then read my transcript to write that description. So now my descriptions will be much more on point to what it should be. So what started out as, hey, let's just grab a transcript, has turned into an entire workflow that is going to extend now to doing the actual video description for the YouTube videos as well. So now I have a lot more control over it, because I just gave it to a team member. They were writing some prompts. The descriptions weren't very good, which is why the views are very low. And I'm aware of the problem, but you know what? You can't solve everything in one day. So I said, I'll solve that soon. And as I did this, I was like, oh, duh, I can just go one step further and finish the whole thing out. So that's going to be my next step tomorrow morning on what to do. So Josh, you had a question about this.
It's an idea. Why don't you just get Paul's emails, do a rag of it, and then
exactly. So we can take Paul's emails. I can put those into a database of sorts, and then I can say, okay, here's the topic, write like how Paul does, and then I can just give Paul a 95% done email, and he can, read it and go, yeah, now I need to put things about my house or whatever he wants to talk about today.
You wouldn't do anything. You wouldn't have to do anything, would you? After this call, you'll just send it out to him and be done.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. So as I'm playing more and more with this tool, I'm realizing there's a lot of easy wins across the entire business. And if you just start whacking this stuff in, all of a sudden you're getting a lot more control over it, over the different aspects that can be done. Because I'm sure we all have things on our to-do list where you say, one day I'm going to do this. Well, this thing allows you to get to that bloody one day thing, and get it done now. So that's the beauty of it. So there you go. So I wanted to kind of share with you guys two examples. Both of those started with a specific problem that we were having. Granted, it wasn't a earth moving problem of sorts, but nevertheless, annoyance. This one here particularly can potentially be worth a lot, because now our descriptions will be much better. In fact, our current descriptions, which are being written by AI, are actually way off base to what the video is about. So yeah. But having said that, it's something I was aware of, and you know what? I said one day I'll solve it. Well, today's the day. So we're going to go back now and have this just go through and churn through all of the video transcripts and just redo all of the descriptions and copy and paste it into the videos now. And that's probably the better way of doing it. Cool. Any questions on this stuff? So one of the use cases that I've been playing around with is actually scraping like ads of competitors from like the Facebook ads library. It's a little bit more technical, because you got to use API 5 for that. API 5, I think it's called, or PI API.
Sounds good.
API
API 5.
That's it. That's the one. Yeah. Yeah, it allows you to create like bots, or what's the word they use? They call it not a machine. What do they call it? They call it, if I go to the store, actor. There you go. They call it actors. Yes. So you create an actor, and so if you go Facebook, there you go. You'll see there's a Facebook as a library scraper. So you just you rent that, and it's like going to be $20 or $10 a month or whatever it is. How much does he charge? There you go, 75 cents for 1,000 ads. Done. You can have your 75 cents for 1,000 ads. So what you would do there is you could do some manual market research, come across 10 or 15 competitors, put the ads library URL into a Google Sheet, run the actor, and it'll run through a large network of proxies, so it doesn't get banned by Facebook, so on and so forth. It'll copy and paste all of the ads into one place. Then you can have another AI that goes through and do what we did in Persuasion SOS, which is to look at the sentiment of the ad, the hooks, so on and so forth. And then you can ask it to derive your own ads based on those ads. And that could be all largely or almost pretty much 100% automated, except you just do the final review part. Just make sure you're happy with the ads and wording and compliance and yada, yada, yada. I would not leave compliance to an AI yet because the consequences are too big, right? You get your account banned, all that kind of stuff. So best to manually review that final part. And then you could easily, I'm sure there's an API integration that I've checked to shove the ads into Facebook or to create the ads for you, and then you can just go and publish them or whatever. Right. Any questions?
Can a stream run on a schedule?
I'm sorry?
Can API be run on a schedule?
Yes, absolutely. You can run around the clock. You can run when you trigger it. You can run whenever, just like you would here. So in my own case, I've got API Fi as an integration. I'm sitting inside here, so I can actually call any actor that I want whenever I want to do it. Now, I'm not suggesting by any means that this is the best way to do it, but this is something that gets you there really, really fast. If I was to do at scale, so let's say if some of you, let's say, Jack, you want to, do thousands of ads or competitors, you could contact a person like him and saying, hey, can you build me one that's like just using APIs and a private proxy network and all that kind of stuff, and they can actually do one for you. One guy reached out to me to say, hey, listen, I know you're trying to scrape Reddit. Can I build a special bot for you? It wasn't very expensive at all. He's like, I think the guy wanted like about $300 for it or something. So I said, yeah, sure.
Facebook offers a ads library API too, but you have to request it, and it's kind of a pain to get, but you can run API queries on your own end for ads.
Perfect. So just in case if that doesn't go through or they rate limit you or something, then this is a second option, because this one is actually not going through the API into Facebook. It's actually going to the website and reading it like a normal human being would. And so it's a different way of grabbing it. Now, whether it's as good as the API or not, but yeah, so there you go. Both options are available. But you're right. A lot of these APIs to get access, they're a bit painful at times and sometimes takes forever. So I'm still waiting for my LinkedIn one to post as a company. So hopefully, I'll get it within the next day or two. But otherwise, you just, you're waiting. So you use something like this instead in the interim or something. Yeah, but great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
What's that? Do you know what the output's like when it pulls it from the library?
Yeah, it gets the entire. So I'm not sure whether it gets the images or not. Here you go. I have not checked this one in particular. I think, yeah, but you can make it grab the images. You can grab it because they're quite smart these days. In fact, if I was to build one at scale, I would look at this library right here called Poly Rag. This right here. It's we're going really nerdy here. So this is a library that does multimodal, so you can actually do video as well if you wanted to. It's like a vision. It's using vision model, so you can actually get it. It's actually like the next version of OCR technology. It'll actually look at the ad and the image, and then extract all of the bits out of it separately. So that's kind of like what you would end up using. So I'm actually playing around with a few of these things there for not specifically for Facebook ads, but to realize that there's other ways of of doing it now, especially when you're looking at invoices and stuff like that. Traditional OCR technology is not perfect. It breaks a lot, but this thing seems to be pretty solid because it's using AI to read rather than trying to break the PDF down. So anyway, yeah, it's working much better, and it works with complex docs, as it's saying here. So for example, if you have a graphical diagram like a flow chart for example, the Facebook ad image has got a flow chart, it actually can break the flow chart down and label it as a flow chart. So it has context about the ad that goes beyond just a picture. It actually can look inside the picture and break that down as well. And so it's getting pretty smart, actually. It's getting very, very good. And that's the reason for basically, jumping on the call and start sharing with you guys that there's a lot of these efficiency gains sitting everywhere that allow you to speed up your speed of execution, but not just the speed, but also the efficacy. Because let's say if you've got 500 ads to look at, it's kind of humanly not possible to look at 500 ads and not get a headache. So this way it can kind of do some of that sifting for you, or grouping it, or classifying it, or whatever, right? You pick and choose how much power you want to give the AI and what you want to do as a human, and it gives you the full spectrum of choices. But yeah, so good question. Any other questions on this? If this is interesting, let me know if what else you guys want to see, or what sort of problems are you trying to fix. And then that way, when I come on the call next week, I'll build some automations out and show you something that's a little bit more real and a little bit more relevant to what you guys are hoping to achieve, rather than just showing you sort of what I've done with it.
Suppose you could run an analysis on what's being done, like sentiment or offers, and have the
Correct.
update to a Slack channel.
Absolutely you can. Yeah. Now, in fact, I wanted to show you guys this other thing that I did. So I actually so this is something that's coming inside LeadSource very soon, but this kind of like a prototype, I guess. It's a bit more work, so it's not quite as just whack it like where did it go? Where is it? Okay, nope. Showing me it's here. I can't seem to find it. Where did it go? 1 second. Let me. Oh, there it is. Cool. All right, so that's the data set. It's obviously a fake data set. In fact, I got the AI to generate it, but what it's doing, it's looking at the time step. If it's a homeowner, monthly power bill, primary benefit, postcode, city, state, longitude, latitude, device, type, browser, OS, traffic source, the UTM source, UTM medium, UTM campaign, UTM content, and the sale value. So kind of like what they ended up buying, right? And that's the kind of data set. It's representative of what you would look at in a real campaign. Obviously, not everyone is going to buy something. So let's assume this is a customer list. And what I did was I asked the AI essentially to build me this. So this is 100% from AI. It's got the different market segments. So what I did was I asked it to look at the data and look at how the questions are being answered. So in this case, how the questions are being answered. If you have a much more elaborate decision tree, then you would have a lot more data to play with. And so that way, and I said to the AI, I said, find me my market segments in the data. And it did. So if I click this, it tells me that based on everyone who bought, it actually sees 4 different market segments here. So you got the eco elite, and you got the independent seekers, you got practical savers, you got the luxury sustainers, and sort of what drives them, what's the emotional drivers there, what are the key characteristics, so on and so forth. So you could actually take this information and see, well, is it valid there? Can I make a campaign around this and run that as your second layer, or probably a totally separate campaign, and see whether, if you were to create ads that were just highlighted around this, or perhaps you could find placements in not necessarily Facebook, but placements in other traffic sources that are specific to this, such as GDN or any one of the other type of, or perhaps YouTube channels that are around specific sub niches that people are covering. You could then target that. But knowing this means that maybe there are other placements that I haven't thought about. Maybe there's other ways of writing ads that I haven't thought about, and so on and so forth. And then I asked it to create a marketing approach. It's telling me where I should look at, the type of content I should run, the sales process, the follow-up sequences that kind of do, what are the dimensional benefits that I should be focusing on, so on and so forth. So it's giving me a pretty nice little breakdown. This wasn't a very elaborate prompt at all. And then finally, I said, hey, write me some ads. These aren't the best ads. So I just kind of put them in here. But those who've done Personal SOS know, how to do a better way of writing ads. But kind of like it just shows sort of the pattern to look at. You want to look at apply to another outcome. You want to change the frame, size. You want to focus on the consequence of the decision. You look at the hierarchy of criteria. You can see here this is the sleight of mouth patterns that are being applied here, which I asked it to. So just for anyone who's not well versed, sleight of mouth. Which is this right here. So it's a verbal NLP by Robert Dilts, verbal skills for reframing through language. And so I was using that. And because I had just reviewed a funnel in astrology or numerology or one of those ologies, palmistry maybe it was, one of those things, where it was like a funnel that's doing about 10 mil. And it was fascinating how much sleight of mouth they were using in the copy. So I was just reading it, and I had to make this quickly make this as an example or a demo. So I said, hey, you know what? Use Robert Dilt's sleight of mouth technique, and how would you write the ads then? And so it made the ads in that sort of frame or pattern, right? And so that's where this sort of idea came from. So now I can start mixing and matching without necessarily being an expert in sleight of mouth. You can just ask it to use the sleight of mouth and see which would be the best pattern to use for the different types of market segments that you have. Now, in my case, I do not have a very large data set at all. It's obviously just a handful of lines. I think maybe about, I don't know, 50 lines or so. A real data set would obviously have thousands of lines or hundreds of lines, and therefore it would give you a much granular data. So just to show an example, because obviously, I don't like to use real data in these things, respect the privacy. If you use a real data set, you'll find about anywhere from 6 to 10 different market segments that the AI will discover for you. And now there's another layer of marketing advertising you can bring to the table. Or say, what sort of traffic sources, ad networks can I find where I'm likely to find, different clusters or these groups of people, and then you can test it out in those things. The advantage of this is obviously no one else is doing this kind of deep dive type work in the data that's coming out. And so if you get one of these working, it probably is going to work for a while, because it's going to be hard to catch you, because they don't quite know why you're doing or how you're doing and why you're doing it. So anyway, just to share with you, because I've done this with about 2 different users, and the results have been pretty astonishing in both cases. So a bit of a tip. Maybe I should have not recorded this one, this part. But anyway, it's on public record. Use it. Right. Any questions on this? Josh, you've got your.
At the moment, I was thinking.
Cool. All right. All right, guys. If anybody else has any questions on this, please. So I guess the lesson here
One
is.
question, Nick. You mentioned previously a Facebook automation type tool, like ad revolver, but for Facebook ads. Do you remember what that was?
Oh crap! Jack, can you help me out here?
Sorry, the API tool he's asking?
Yeah.
Facebook ads kind of management on Scale.
Yeah, so go to the Facebook Lives. Well, he showed the Amplify one, but if you go to the Facebook ads library, just like search Facebook ads library,
No,
it should.
not for intelligence, for management.
You mean to update, right?
Yeah, to update, to add in automations behind it. Like
Oh.
we use Ad Revolver for Google Ads, but looking for something similar for Facebook.
Ad revolver. Okay. Well, okay. Clearly, my searches are the best. All right.
Evolver, sorry.
Evolver.
Yeah, Google's response have gone crap too.
So this, okay. So you're looking for something like this for Facebook.
I remember
Correct?
you mentioned something a while back.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Okay, so this looks at your rules, right? It manages the
Yeah,
rules, like when to scale up.
rules,
And
and it has automation.
yes,
gets
yes,
sort of
yes,
cut out
yes.
as well.
Man, crap. What was that called again? It was. Sorry, dude. I'm drawing a blank. I will get back to
If
you
you
on
remember,
that.
let me know. All good.
Yeah. I've mentioned it quite a few times. I'm just drawing a blank right now. It's a, it's a. So essentially, the way you use the tool is you just dump as many ads as you want, provided they're compliant. You just go live with it, and then the rules will take over. It looks at your 3-day data, your X-day data,
Yeah.
and if it sees that the ROAS or whatever your metrics are below a certain thing, it'll actually start bidding up, bidding down, or turning your ads off. So what it does, it saves you from unnecessarily sitting inside the ads manager, and allows you to focus more on just the creative part and let the mechanics be run automatically. Yeah. So let me get back to you. I'm just drawing a blank here
No
because
worries.
I'm just drawing a blank. So I'll get back to you by tomorrow.
No
Yeah,
stress.
it's on the top of my mind somewhere, but not quite coming out. Cool. Right, well, any other questions or anything else that's been troubling you guys? Or if there's any other requests that you have, guys, just please post in the Facebook group if there's something, if it's some sort of an automation nut you're trying to crack. Just post it in there. I'm driven by these challenges. I'm started enjoying making these things. The more complex they are, the sort of more creative you can be with it. But once solved, it's actually a pretty big win. So I've got it. I'm using it on our accounting side. So all of our PDFs get converted into automatically get posted into a QuickBooks. So Xero or whatever platform you're using is automatically. So the accounting side is all done. We also have a lot of FX gain and loss type issues. So we've got the transaction date. It picks up the FX rates and automatically updates those. So that way you don't have to worry about, what's today, because the data entry was taking a lot. In fact, what happened was, I looked at the bill from the bookkeeper, and it's like 25 hours a week. And I'm like, something's not quite right. So I jumped on the call and said, what the hell are you doing? And there's a lot of manual stuff going on because Australian companies, so I got to report to my tax man in Aussie dollars, but all of our earnings are in US dollars and so on and so forth. So it's a little bit painful for him to do all that. And I was like, oh, why didn't you just tell me? Because we can just build an automation with it. So anyway, so I'm building some automations. That's how it started actually, to sort of save. Because I said you should be spending your time analyzing what the data is showing and kind of like, hey Nick, this cost is getting a bit out of hand. Do you want to do something about it? I prefer if you did that than to waste time bookkeeping or just doing data entry crap. And so that's sort of like what triggered me to go down the rabbit hole and start playing with these tools. I was already doing it for marketing and sort of looking at sentiment analysis and all that stuff. And then as I started building that out, it sort of, the aha moment just kind of it clicked for me that this is actually very scalable, and you can really build whatever you want with it. Yeah, so it's almost like reaching to a no limits type of a thing, especially when you look at the social media stuff I just showed earlier. Right, so we've got a question here from Tommy. How are you? Yeah, absolutely. This will be up on YouTube by Wednesday or Thursday of this week. So having said that, I've never been a big user of any other platform. I hated Zapier. I found it a little bit too clunky. It was always difficult to find find stuff that doesn't work properly. Like kind of like if there's an error, I know it was difficult to search. I wasn't a big fan of it. This one here, it has everything sitting in that executions here, so you can actually go and study to see what's actually going on and so on and so forth. So errors, you can see it right away. It's a little bit more like a pro level tool, I guess, if I want to call it that. I'm not sure if that's the right way of putting it, but I'm loving the flexibility of it. The other thing you can do is your credentials here, you can actually share them. So you can actually move them to other groups. You can have different types of, for example, projects. So you can set up different team members for different type projects. In my own case, I'm adding everything to here. So for example, these two I'm playing around at the moment. So they're sitting in my personal one. Once I get the whole thing working, then I'll just come over here and go move, and I'll move it to one of the other ones so that everybody else can get access to it as well. So that way it keeps it doesn't crowd out it's a little bit of on the organization side. But as far as the workflows are concerned, yeah, this thing's great. The traceability when you're building is phenomenal, actually. Yeah, I'm liking it. But I have never been a big user of other platforms, so can't talk bad about anything else except except I can talk bad about Zapier. It's I think Zapier is dead when you look at this stuff here. In comparison for the price you're paying. This is about $40 a month, I think, or $30 a month. And really, I haven't run into any limits yet in terms of what it can and can't do.
I like the debug on this one. Zapier's debug info is crap.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, especially when you're looking at stuff like this, so it gives you like the input and the output, like, oh, was I expecting this? Or you know, like, nah, that doesn't quite look right. Okay, well, cool, I made a mistake. So you catch things much easier and much faster.
I use Insomnia to test my Zapier workflows. I do it there, then I'll transfer it into
Right.
Zapier.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go.
Do you know if they have a team to help move over?
Is there a thing to what to move over?
Do they have a team to like move over from a Zapier? That's the only thing that would
Oh,
stop.
that's a great
Right.
question. I don't know. But I guess if you post it up on Upwork, I'm sure there's a guru out there who's well aware of both platforms. But it'd be nice to, yeah, just to go export, import.
Well, even not import export, if they had a team inside there.
Yeah, no, okay, so all right. So just on that, okay, so let's try and solve that problem. So you can import from a file here, right? So let's say if I have this automation here, I would export it. I would tell the AI to study it and how the structure is being done. I'd then export out the Zapier one. I'm assuming you can export, but let's say you can. I would ask it to study that one, and I'd say, can you take the Zapier one and put it in the same format and style and structure of the because the file is just a JSON file, right? So convert Zapier JSON into N8N a JSON, and then just import it in and see if it works. So I don't think you need a team. Just ask the AI to do it for you.
Yeah.
Nick, I have a
At what point would you build something as opposed to using tools like this?
Sorry, when would you build something? Yeah, okay.
At what
So
point would you build something?
yeah, okay. So the main you got to decide like what's the competitive advantage, right? So for example, inside LeadZook, we realize obviously tools like this are going to get better and better and better, and they come close to what we're doing. So we're adding a more stuff where like paid speed and all that kind of stuff. So things that really move the needle in lead gen. It's not the fact that you can move data around, because you can move data around even in Zapier. It's the fact that there's latency that has impact on conversions. So our focus is very much on that. The other thing we found is that people still struggle a lot with landing page copy and all that kind of stuff. So that's why our next update is where you just put in details about your business or a couple of URLs from your website, and we'll grab all the data down. We'll build a customer profile of who you're looking to target, and then automatically build out the full landing page for you. So those sort of things is where we can add value that a generic tool like this will be a bit more work, I guess, is probably the honest answer. Yeah. Sorry, Jack, you had a question.
Yeah, so I think I sent you an email on this, but basically, I'm like doing a lot of diving into the LeadZook, like raw reports of traffic of like certain device types,
Yep.
iOS,
Yep.
operating systems, all that.
Yep.
And what I find is pretty interesting. If you go to I can go to a Facebook campaign, look at the exact clicks and impressions by device and etc. And then I can go to the LeadZook report as well. And Facebook like vastly underreports the traffic of what I see compared to in the LeadZook. Would you have any idea of like what would cause that? And how do you guys like get the iOS and all that information? Is that fully accurate sometimes, or is there times where it's not?
So okay, so we make a third-party API call to a data provider, and that's where all that information is coming from.
Okay.
And it's always a battle because obviously IPs change, so therefore device changes. Obviously you can spoof stuff with user agents, all that kind of stuff. So we're constantly updating. We've got an update coming up where we're looking at fingerprinting stuff. The issue always ends up being is where do you draw the line in terms of how much data you grab, and the ethical issues and the legal compliance type issues that keep popping up over and over again. As you're fully aware, when you get a letter from a law firm saying, "Can you prove that leads you were TCPA compliant?" So we're aware of those things, and so we make an API call to a third party. What I've done historically is we've got 30 or 40 devices that we've mapped out, and we test those 30 or 40 devices against any new API that we're evaluating, and we're making sure that it actually gets as close as possible to the physical devices that we've actually mapped out. So that's how we uncover those. So some of the APIs that we have are actually pricier than the cheapest thing available in the market. That's because no point giving you shitty data. So that's how we're looking at it.
Is that data you would say is pretty accurate for like traffic of like,
Yes.
hey, iOS 17 versus Android 14, Android 13, Android 10, etc.?
Yes, pretty accurate, especially the newer devices. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I noticed like we launched native again, and like we got a shit ton of Android 10 traffic. Start looking into it, it looks all like bots, so help exclude that. But yeah, just trying to like understand it more. But
yeah. So if it's bot stuff, then the best way to do it is to split that thing up. We're adding in a little bit more threat stuff recently, because we looked at things like Aurora. They're so expensive, and I was like, okay, it'd be great to just have them as a third party. What I did was there was one account that was getting a lot of fake traffic. They were doing solar on YouTube, of all things, and they're getting a lot of fake traffic. So I ran that through Aurora, and it didn't give any better results. So at least in that test, it didn't. So I was like, so where do I go for good data? So we've got a couple of APIs we're working with right now. One of them needs us to be a little bit at overscale, because they're like about 30 grand a month, just for the data. So I need the volume to be a little bit higher to justify the cost, but the data quality is very, very good. But it's a proper enterprise level stuff. And I'm like, who do you work with? And it's, we work with like McDonald's and stuff like that. So we need a little bit more volume to get access to those people. But every month I email him and I hound him like, hey, come on, have you thought of a per API kind of cost-based thing, rather than, because what it does is like, oh, you pay 30 grand a month, but we're going to give you 10 bazillion API calls. And I'm like, well, I don't need 10 billion bazillion API calls. I think even if we aggregated another 5 or 10 apps like what we do, we still couldn't reach the volumes that would justify the cost. But the thing to do is that if you're finding any specific patterns, to put those in a decision node. We've got some updates coming up in the decision node, so you can programmatically identify them a little bit better using just JavaScript in real time, and essentially trigger those as a different conversion, and then add those in as a lookalike audience of some sort, and try and extract that out. So almost send the bad data back to your traffic source, and try and exclude it in some way, or do a 1 or 2% lookalike type. Now I know that not every native network has that kind of functionality like the way Google and Facebook do, but that's kind of like the best way to prevent it, because then that way it prevents the spend from being wasted, rather than just shitty leads. Because the goal is not the fact you're going to get bad leads, it's the fact that you're still spending money on those bad leads. So can we help it identify? And in fact, that happened with someone in the motor vehicle kind of the personal injury space that I was working with about maybe a year or so ago, where they just got flooded with fake traffic on YouTube. And the numbers dropped. They lost 600K in a single month because they identified the problem a little bit late. And so the way we solved that is we would, and Google would not refund. They're like, oh, sorry, too bad. And so what we did was we started sending that as a separate conversion, and then doing some audience building around that. And that it didn't eliminate the 100%, but it reduced it materially, that you stop spending money on bad traffic.
You mentioned a while back being able to make that data from the raw data available via API or a database. Is that still in the pipeline, or is it ready now? Yeah, no. So because you get the API node, you can extract that out and shove it into one of these things and do whatever you want with it. That works.
one other question. So, I don't know what you would think that could cause this, but as I said, like if I go to like a specific Facebook campaign and for a specific day and look at just overall Android devices or even overall clicks, essentially a click on a Facebook ad should likely be an impression on a leads hook model, right?
Correct.
And what I've
Correct.
noticed is like Facebook will report 1,000 clicks, but then leads hook will report and filtered down for impressions exactly for that UTM source campaign ID. So like it should map 1-to-1. And I
Correct.
noticed like leads hook will show 3,000. So it's like
Show more.
yeah, like I wonder if Facebook's like how Facebook's purposely underreporting things. Like it's just interesting. Like the Facebook when I look at conversion there versus conversion.
Okay, so Jack, so what I'll do is I'll send you an email. You know, let's jump on a call so I can actually dive down with you.
Yeah, it's super.
No, because that's a great question, and therefore, so what we'll do is I'll actually dump the data out of our load balancer, because that's the first point at which traffic. So traffic doesn't hit leads hook first; it hits the load balancer, and then it verifies to see whether it's fake and so on and so forth. There's a few checks and balances that happen there before it gets into leads hook. So what we're reporting inside leads hook is actually an underestimate of true traffic that's coming to your site. Obviously, something like Facebook would naturally just get through because obviously it's coming from Facebook. But there's a lot of stuff that is getting filtered out, which especially if it's fake and stuff. So I'll make sure that that we grab a thin sliver of traffic, so maybe over a certain day of a certain campaign type, and we drag all of the data out of Facebook or what Facebook is showing you in the aggregate over a very specific time period, and then we'll do something very similar for the leads hook side, and we'll see if I can map and see what the deficiencies are and where the differences are, and perhaps we'll learn something about whether Facebook is underreporting to make its traffic look better or something, or giving you free traffic. I'm not too sure, but let's that is a nice exercise I'm willing to work on. Yeah, so I'll reach out to you in the next half an hour or so, and let's jump on a call. Yeah,
is that a real number, Jack? 3 to
Sorry?
1? Is that real 3 to 1?
It's like 2-to-1. Sometimes I've seen it's very interesting. Because like really I've been trying to dive in conversion rates. If you like Facebook conversion rates are, I don't think they're a good determiner of performance, because especially if you launch new ads, because it depends if like Android traffic, majority will go to Facebook Audience Network if you have Facebook Audience Network live, and the conversion rate on Audience Network could be like 0.2%, but the cost still kind of works out. So if you're like saying, hey, why did my conversion rate drop this week? It might likely just because it's serving more to Audience Network on Android devices. So I think there's a lot of noise in Facebook with Facebook Audience Network and Android devices where they're like padding numbers. But obviously, when you look at the cost per sale by Android devices, for at least my data, it still works out. But it just seems like there's a lot of noise in that in the data there. So I'm just trying to look into it more.
No. That's a great question. In fact, that the reason why I do want to jump on a call with you, because that is something we're looking at building inside leads hook to give you a much more robust way to validate what the ad networks are telling you, especially for conversions that are happening outside the 7-day period or whatever the X day period beyond which someone like a Facebook will ignore it. So let's say if you send a server-side conversion, let's say 10 days out or 15 days out, Facebook will ignore it. But that conversion did happen. It just so happened that it took the sales team, 7 days or whatever to sell someone. And unfortunately now your numbers are underreported. The conversions are underreported inside Facebook itself. And so there's a lot of that sort of stuff happening, which is needlessly complicated analysis. And there's a lot of ad campaigns then, and I'm not saying in your case, but there's a lot of ad campaigns that are being shut off when they actually are working. But there's a time lag between click on the ad and when the sale actually happens. And so naturally Facebook's ignoring because you're outside the 7-day period or whatever the period they look at for their reporting. So anyway, so that's something we want to solve much better inside Leads. So what you do is you just make an API call or you upload a bunch of data inside LeadsHook itself, And so we'll give you true conversions, irrespective of when it happens. So even if it happens 6 months from now, you can upload that and it'll actually give you full traceability right down to the where the ad was clicked. And I know that, you know, guys like Hyros and all that stuff, but they're so super expensive, and I don't really see any need for anyone to pay that kind of money just to freaking look in your own data.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, Nick.
Hey, no problem. All right. Any other questions, guys? Great call today. Cool. If there's no more questions, thanks for jumping on the call. Same time, same place next week. If there's anything that pops up in the meantime that you'd like me to sort of, you know, have a bit of a play around with in terms of the automations, just post it in the Leads group. More than happy to build something out for you. If there's something you're looking at that's, you know, causing you few issues, like, oh, if I could solve this, it would, you know, make my life easier, faster, cheaper. Just post it in the Facebook group. I'll build something.
You mentioned recently you were seeing a 20% lift in conversion reporting when you sent through all the data for every node.
That is correct. Yeah, that is correct. So that's so that was I mean, I knew this has been happening for a while, but I couldn't find anybody to bloody share it publicly. you know, Leads users hate telling other people what's working. So anyway, so Richard,
based on
okay, so it's
overall, or was it based on
no. So yeah, Richard does listen volumes, and he's got a 10 out of 10 match rate on Meta, right? And people keep telling me that it's not possible. Yes, it is possible. He's the only person who's ever publicly shared it. So that's why I keep going back to this post. He's reporting 20% extra conversions, which were otherwise missing. And you have a look here, his view content as well as his lead event all have a 10 out of 10. So what it's allowing Facebook to do is to find the audience or find the whatever much better. And so as a result, he has conversion rates or CPAs that are far better than anybody else that's trying to compete with him, right? And all he's doing is just using the webhook node, which is passing the API call for the server-side conversions after every node. So so when he saw me sharing, you know, hey, you can, you know, just deduplicate at every node, he said, all right, I'm just going to do. So he deduplicates at every node. As a result, he's getting 10 out of 10 match rates, and it's been consistent for months. And I was kind of glad that he shared it. He said just as well, there's not too many competitors inside LeadsHook that are inside the LeadsHook group that are his competitors. So he was kind enough to share it. But this is really one of the ways to get I'm not going to say cheap traffic, but at least a better targeting or a better data, quality data that's going to go back to Facebook, which allows it to then show your ads to a better audience, because it's better because it understands who the hell you're looking for.
Makes sense. We're getting close, but not 10 out of 10.
Yeah, so
we don't have it on every
okay, all right, okay. So the way to get a 10 out of 10, and I'm gonna just quickly go here and show you how you get or how you set up for 10 out of 10. Right, so Facebook.
No, we don't have it on every node.
That could be one reason, but the other one is, and I found this just because someone wasn't getting it, and I started making some changes and stuff. It's this information right here. So email, phone, first name, last name, date of birth. Now, obviously, when you at the view content event level, you won't have some of that information. So you got to pass the lead ID, the external ID, I should say. The external ID in almost every case is you just hash the lead ID, and that'll give you the external ID. The country, until someone gives you the country, use the one from geo IP fields. Zip as well. If you're not asking for zip as part of your campaign, use the zip that we give you as part of the geo IP fields. Same as the city, state, the gender. You can skip that if you're not asking for gender stuff, and the date of birth. If obviously you haven't captured it, then you don't want to put it. Now, having said that, the gender, you can do that. I've got one guy who's actually gone crazy. What's that API called? I keep forgetting.
NAMSOR.
Sorry, could you repeat it?
NAMSOR.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry. What is it? It's
name source.
Name source. Sorry, name source. So if anybody is wanting to wanting to play. Okay, so I'm just gonna pause recording here because I'm gonna say something that's should be on record. So, 1 second. Give me how do I? Okay, pause. Gonna not talk about this. All right. So anyway, so long story short, that's how you want to fill all of the data in that's available to you to then do it. Now, the other thing I found was if you were to add these extra bits of data in, which is the country external, the external ID, zip, city, and so on and so forth. Even if you're not grabbing the name, first name, last name, the match rates start moving up quite a lot. So in most cases, what people are doing is they're ignoring these other bits. So they'll pass the what's necessary, which is the user agent, the IP, the FBP, FBC, and then kind of like that's it. That's kind of like where it all stops. And so they're really missing out on. So just by passing these extra bits of data, you will push the match rate to all the way towards, or at least very close to 10 out of 10. Yep. Cool. Good question. Anything else? You know, it's funny. I'll sometimes get messages saying, "Hey, man, you stopped the recording. What did you say?" Yeah.
Should have been on the call.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, guys. Same time, same place next week. If there's anything else I can help you with, please post in the Leadso group. Otherwise, have a great week. And Jack, I'll send
asking when you think it'll still be up live, Nick.
What's that? This thing? Yeah. So yeah, it'll be up by Thursday. It should be up.
Awesome.
Thank you, Nick.
All right.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so much. Talk
Cheers,
soon.
Nick.
Bye for now.